All right, everybody, this is it. This should be the end of the road here. I guess, could be another video depending on what the Seahawks show us they're interested in before the draft. I might end up doing one more prospect video at some point, but in terms of what we have planned and ready to go, this is the end of the road. So if you've watched every draft prospect video I've made, that's quite a bit of content you've consumed. When I get this one added to the playlist, it'll probably get to about 24 hours, so we will be pretty full up. I don't think there will be much that we've missed. There will probably only be a handful of guys drafted that we didn't look at some point. So, let's go ahead and get into these guys. We got three. They're defensive guys. We're starting off with an off-ball linebacker, Jackson Sirmon from California. I believe this is just a guy that I missed on who's in the top 250 on the aggregate, so I decided to toss him in there. 24 years old when the season starts, 6'2", 235, so he's actually got relatively credible linebacker size. 30 and 3/8 inch arms, 9-inch hands. CBS is the only other big board I found him on. They have him right around the cusp of getting drafted or not getting drafted. Last year he missed half the season, had about 50 tackles, 3 for loss, 2 forced fumbles, pretty decent PFF grade. Year before he played the whole season, had over 100 tackles, 6 for loss, 3.5 sacks. So decently productive when he plays. Nothing super stand out, but just kind of a decent all-around player. So what I can say about him, he's a good tackler. He's got good contact balance. He can take hits and stay upright. He doesn't get put on his ass too much. He's talented at stacking and shedding blockers. So a lot of these linebackers, once they get a blocker on them, it's GG. Not for this guy. This guy can stack and shed pretty well for an off-ball linebacker. He's a hard hitter when he makes contact. And overall, I think he's pretty good at playing the run. He's pretty good at fitting himself into run gaps. He's pretty good at being able to read the run blocking and put himself in the right position to make the play. So some positive assets. And he's not playing at a nothing school. California is not a completely nothing school. Now, physically, he is unremarkable. There's nothing about his testing, his athletic profile that stands out. It's all just kind of like, okay, it's like whatever. It's like passable, but nothing really stands out. There are questions about his effort. Sometimes it seems like he's not out there giving it his all. Sometimes he's just going through the motions. Sometimes it's just a little bit sleepy. And he did miss a good chunk of the 2023 season, so we don't have a full idea of what he is as a prospect yet. But what's there is not bad. So probably a pure special teamer who will be a backup in the NFL. I don't think he'll ever be a starter. I don't think that there's enough here to justify. He's not really good at anything except his smarts against the run. But he is relatively well-rounded. And there is something to be said for that. There's no area where I think he's just really, really bad. If anything you can really criticize him on, it would probably be the fact that he's a little bit lazy, it seems like. But I think he has enough going on to stick around in this league. Can't quite put him in the 7th, but I would put him near the top of the UDFA list. So, not too bad. Not too bad for Jackson Sirmon. All right, this next guy here is really interesting, really fascinating stuff here from Qwantez Stiggers. Qwantez Stiggers of the Argonauts. That's right, this is a CFL player, never played college football. I don't know why he's in the draft. I don't know why he isn't just in the free agency pool, but whatever. I don't make the rules. I just observe others following them. So he's a cornerback, 22, 6 feet tall, 204 pounds. So he's got pretty good size, kind of short arms, 30 and a half, 8 and 7/8 hands. The testing was okay. Some places it's good, some places it's bad. He had an explosive broad jump, decent 40, but overall it's just kind of like meh. On the aggregate, he is 320th, so he's not projected to be drafted, but there is a little bit of notoriety around this guy. He had a pretty good year for Toronto last year, 53 tackles and 5 picks. So there is some theme to this guy. There is something compelling about what he's doing out there. He's a smart player. He's cerebral. You put him in zone. You allow him to sit back in his zone drops, watch the play develop. Pretty good at figuring things out. Pretty good at making his break at the right time. Pretty good at passing things off in zone. His trigger downhill looks like an NFL cornerback. He can trigger downhill quickly, going from his back pedal to his click and close. He's got great ball skills. 5 interceptions in CFL last year. Pretty credible. I know it's hard to make one-to-one comps when you're coming from the CFL, but he has ball skills that translate well. He might be able to play outside in the NFL because he's tall enough and big enough. And he's a pretty fluid mover overall, I feel like. So, Stiggers, bringing some nice things. He is physical, and he does play aggressively, and he's probably going to get flagged a bunch in the NFL if he continues to play like that. Might have to clean that up a little bit. He's not going to be able to do a lot of press man stuff because he is a little short-armed, and his technique there is not really what it needs to be. He doesn't have NFL caliber speed, not in a straight line. His acceleration's all right, but the speed's not really there. And there's just very little to go on here. We have 1 year of CFL production, no college tape because he didn't play in college, so really hard to decipher this. But I think that there's enough here that translates to the NFL to at least be a little bit interested, and 7th round seems okay. I'm not going to throw a party about it if we pick him in the 7th round because I do suspect he will be available as a UDFA and there won't be a massive push to go get him, but there's definitely something here that I think NFL fans should be aware of. It's not bad. So it's too much of a leap for me to commit to putting him in the draftable area, but I think he's more draftable than a lot of the guys we looked at in this little coda here. One last guy we're going to look at here. This is a guy we just recently are having in for a top 30 visit. Michael Dowell of Miami of Ohio, a safety. 6 feet tall, 217 pounds, 32 3/8 arms, 9 5/8 hands. The testing was decent. Most standout was the bench press. He cranked out a lot of bench press reps at his pro day, 24. 40 was a little above average, acceleration a little below average. The explosiveness was mixed. Change of directions, kind of substandard. So a little all over the place there. His best year in terms of production was probably 2022. He had almost 100 tackles and 6 passes defensed. Last year, the production went down, but the quality of play kind of went up. His overall numbers did actually increase in terms of things like allowing stuff in coverage, and he had a couple interceptions and PFF efficiency. So player headed in the right direction, but I couldn't find him on any big board, including the aggregate. So he's pretty clearly a UDFA level target. On top of playing a lot of safety, he played a lot of nickel corner for Miami of Ohio. Should offer a little bit of that flexibility in the NFL, although I'm a little bit concerned that stuff is going to go away. He has NFL caliber size. 217 pounds for a safety is plenty. That's definitely going to be good enough. He comes downhill really hard when he gets involved against the run. Turns into that extra linebacker very quickly. Now, I don't know if he'll be able to be a nickel corner in the NFL because his change of direction isn't very good. Like, it's a little bit slow and sluggish. He's not a natural mover, and I don't know if he'll be able to cut it as a nickel. And his short area quickness does lead to a decent number of missed tackles. Not a huge amount, but enough to wonder. So, not much to say here. Not on people's radar. Kind of forgettable. He's definitely a UDFA level guy. And maybe there's something we see that we like, but I don't think we need to spend a draft pick on it. Okay. It's over. It is over, everybody. We have looked at... Let's take a look here. We have looked at a grand total of 286 players now. 286. There are not that many draft picks in a 7-round draft. So we may have just looked at everybody who's going to get drafted. I don't know. We're going to need time to find that out. I will see you guys later. Go Hawks. Let me know what you think of these 3, if anything. And now we move on to a different phase of the pre-draft process.